Next, it's everyone's favorite video game discussion show. An all-new GameView starts right now.
Hey guys, welcome to GameView for December 2018. I'm Scott.
And I'm Roxie.
And tonight we've got two big topics that we are going to talk about, and one of which is probably the best Nintendo game of this year. So why don't you get us started there, Roxie?
Alright, it is December, which means Smash Ultimate has came out. This was a game that I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to play or not. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to play it at launch or not, because I wasn't sure if I was going to have the money. Thankfully, I had a really good friend be able to, buy the game for me, basically. And so I've been playing it since midnight release. And good lord, is the game fun. I haven't done much online. I think the popular opinion is that the online is real laggy and it's not the best in the world right now, and I'm sure that'll change over time. But the game itself feels really solid. A lot of the characters feel really solid. Characters like Peach, Link, and they both feel really good, and they feel a lot better than they did in Smash 4. The new characters like Chrom and Inkling feel really good. I'm not a big fan of King K. Rool. I don't like him. But Smash Ultimate is literally living up to its name as Ultimate. It is so good. And if you're sleeping on the Spirit Battle stuff and the World of Light stuff when they announced it, don't. Because World of Light is really good. There's a lot to it, a lot more than I expected, and a lot more than a lot of people expected. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because going in anymore would be spoiler territory.
It always amazes me how much time and effort Sakurai puts into these Smash games, because, I mean, especially when it comes to Ultimate, I mean, the number of characters included, the number of stages, the number of customization options, being able to morph stages, over 900 music tracks, literally, this game is like, I want to say four Smash games put together into one, and that's more than enough to justify the $60 price tag, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, this game, I personally feel like Smash Ultimate deserves to be a little bit more. Because it is such a good game. It has so much content packed into it, and so many things that are just unexpected. If you haven't seen any spoilers, if nobody's leaked anything and you managed to see it, if you've managed to go into Smash Ultimate completely blind, then you are going to be in for a lot of sudden shocks, and your expectations are just going to be blown. Because there are so many things in the game. It's phenomenal. And I feel like I have to bring this up because I am a big Persona 5 fan. I love that game. And I love all its characters. At the Game Awards for 2018, near the end of the show, Nintendo came on and stole the show. Nintendo took Atlus's Persona 5 and stole the show. Because, no, Persona 5 was not announced for Switch yet. Possibly, maybe. They announced Joker, the protagonist from Persona 5, into Smash Ultimate as the first character DLC. And that is amazing! To have a character like Joker, someone whose franchise has never even touched Smash, and has only been on one Nintendo console, and that was the 3DS. And even then, there weren't Persona 5 characters there. That is just absolutely amazing.
that kind of threw me off guard. I mean, of all the different characters from different games that they could have thrown in, I mean, we still don't know what the remaining 4 are, but to go as Joker, it sort of lit off speculation all over the internet. Well, maybe Atlas will port over Persona 5, maybe Nintendo is trying to work out some kind of deal where they can port over the game from the PlayStation 4, I mean...
I fully believe that if that's what Joker in Smash Ultimate means, that we're getting Persona 5 for the Switch, if that is the case, then I 100% recommend anyone with a Switch who has never played Persona 5 or a Persona game ever to go out and get it. Because I guarantee you, if Persona 5 drops on Switch, I'm spending another full $60 on this game.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
It's just no joke. If you've never played Persona, even if you don't have an interest in it, I still feel like you should play the game. But this is all speculation because we don't know if it's leading up to Persona 5 on Switch. Because there's another Persona game coming out. There's Persona Q2 on the 3DS, and that game has Persona 5 characters in it as well. So it could tie into that because that game did just come out in Japan. But who knows? Either way, Joker's in Smash. I can't wait to see gameplay for him because I'm going to be an immediate Joker main. Inkling and Joker main right here.
So then is it safe to assume that, I guess, the stage for Joker will be some type of stage related to Persona 5 and maybe some music theme song from there as well then?
That's what I'm hoping for. The stage itself is probably going to be Mementos, which is one of the... It's one of the key parts to Persona 5. And the music will probably be from, like, different tracks. There's probably going to be Last Surprise, Rivers in the Desert, Life Will Change, maybe some, like, some of the castle music, like Kamoshida's Castle, or the some other palaces music, like Kanashiro's Bank could have some music in there. I also expect to see some like Velvet Room music in there as well.
Any particular favorites, or?
Rivers in the Desert. 100% Rivers in the Desert is one of my favorite tracks.
Okay. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed, and maybe that'll be the one they choose. Who knows?
Well, you're getting multiple music tracks. You get one character, one stage, and several different music tracks. So hopefully that'll be one of the tracks to make it in.
Makes sense. So that does bring up a good point then. I guess it's kind of off the table now as far as the remaining 4 DLC packs. I mean, is there anything else that you would like to see them put in for the other characters?
I love the Kingdom Hearts series, but I personally would not want to see Sora in it. But seeing as we now have Joker, someone who is tied in with Atlas and Sony, I could fully see Sora getting put into Smash Ultimate. I could see that happening. It might not happen, but who knows? We don't know who's going to be in here now. Because all the characters are going to be from new series to Smash. So, it's just... It's so open-ended that you could say anyone... Besides the restrictions Sakurai has outright stated, you could pretty much guess anyone for Smash Ultimate. Like, there are certain characters who people would love, but will never make it in, because I believe Sakurai said that, you know, no manga origin characters will make it into Smash. So, like, people like Goku won't make it, but, you know, Sans has a chance. I don't know why you'd want Sans in Smash, but he is a shot.
Alright, so I want to talk a little bit more about the core Smash game itself then. I know you've been playing it a lot over the last couple of days, but give some of the people who've never played Smash before a sense of how they're able to just jump right in, how they can unlock characters, what the gameplay is like, all that.
So, if you've never played a Smash game, Smash Ultimate is actually kind of for you. The way that the game is done, when you open the game, whether you buy it digitally or physical, you pop that card in, or you just load up the game itself. You are met with, once you go into the Smash section, because you got 4 different options. Once you go into Smash, you get, like, I think 6 or 8 characters. And it's the original Smash 64 roster. And that's how everyone started. Everyone who has been a long-time fan of the Smash series started out with those. And then the quickest way is to just fight. You pick your character. You pick first you pick your stage, then you pick your rule set, then your stage, then your character, which is completely different, but it's kind of nice, because it means that you can have what you want instead of what is the default, or what was the default. And so you pick your character, you can fight the CPU or a friend if you have one nearby for local fighting, and you fight each other, and then as soon as that fight is done, you're immediately met against a random character. You don't know who you're going to face the first time. Alternatively, if you want, you can go into Classic Mode. Classic Mode has a bunch of... every character has their own route that you go through, which is completely new to Smash. Like, usually it was just, everybody had a set path, but now, and like some paths would overlap, and it would end up being, the result of that path would end up being the same. That's not the case in this one. In Smash Ultimate, you pick your character, so like, let's say you pick Link. So then your path is set on, you go through a bunch of different Zelda-themed battles, ending with a boss fight against, and this is going to be spoiled, I do apologize, but it's the best way to sort of represent it. You fight Ganon from Ocarina of Time, the final boss, Pig Ganon, 2 swords, glowy tail. You fight that as a final boss, whereas if you were playing as, say, Chrom, you would fight the Master Hand and Crazy Hand. So it's just, there's so many different ways you can unlock characters. And alternatively, if you wanted to take the longer route, you could do the World of Light. Every character you unlock in World of Light's adventure mode, you unlock in the regular game. But the same isn't said for unlocking it through Smash or Classic Mode or the Spirit Board into World of Light. And a lot of it is just sort of up to chance. You can either... you don't know... If you go for the regular Smash against the CPU route, you don't know who you're going to fight. But I'm sure there's... For Classic Mode, there's lists of who you can unlock and how you can unlock them.
So, how many characters in total are in Smash Ultimate?
With the base game, without any DLC, so that's no Piranha Plant, no Joker, there are 74 characters, and you start out with 8.
Wow. That is a long way from the original N64 version.
Oh yeah. And including Piranha Plant and Joker, you know, you shoot up by 2 and go up to 76. But I guess, you know, I should say this, if you want Piranha Plant, hurry up and get Smash, and you can, if you get it physically, you have to claim your Nintendo, or your MyGold through the physical cartridge in order to get a code for Piranha Plant. If you bought the game digitally through the eShop, you will get an email from Nintendo a couple days afterwards and you'll have a code that you put in, and whenever Piranha Plant goes live, bam, you get him then and there. But if you miss that opportunity, because that ends January 31st of 2019, if you miss that opportunity, that's it. You have to wait until Piranha Plant goes live to be bought, because you will have to pay for him at that point.
And Piranha Plant is separate from the 5 DLC packs, right?
Right. So Piranha Plant is its own thing, whereas Joker is the character pack number 1. So it is technically the first of the 5 DLC characters we were told about, whereas Piranha Plant is just a separate entity.
Now, I did want to talk on a couple other things about Smash Ultimate 2. First, I don't know if you've used this function yet, but I remember when Sakurai was talking about using your Switch as a glorified MP3 player, in a sense, where you could just listen to any Smash songs you want, and you could still have, like, the screen of the Switch turned off. Have you tried that out at all?
No, because even though I did go into town today, and I had my Switch with me, I didn't use it as an MP3 player because I was too busy playing World of Light.
Makes sense. I was curious if that had an effect, I would assume, on the battery life, because obviously the screen uses up, the majority of it.
Well, the thing is that Smash Ultimate doesn't take up as much battery as certain other games do. I went into town at on 100% battery, and by the time I got back, and I went to town at 8 a.m. and got back at 2:30. And I was playing it a majority of the time while I was in town, and the battery only dropped about 40%, so it was still pretty high by the time I got home.
Really?
So, yeah, Smash Ultimate is a beautiful game, doesn't take up a whole lot of battery compared to something like Breath of the Wild. Now, I will say, for certain spots in handheld mode, you might see a frame dip once in a while. It will not be often. And it'll probably be in the areas where there's a lot of characters on screen, but that's it. Other than that, there's pretty much no frame drops unless you go online.
Makes sense. Now, I also want to talk about the compression ratio, because Nintendo always surprises me with how they're able to minimize their data usage. Smash Ultimate is, what, around 14-15 gigs?
I think so, yeah.
How in the world were they able to get that file size that low?
I have no clue, because this is around the same file size that Smash 4 was on Wii U. It is around that same file size.
I just don't get it. I don't comprehend it. I mean, you've got so many more characters and stages and options, and you've got that whole World of Light mode, and yet somehow the data size has stayed the same.
It's just phenomenal. Nintendo has some compression wizards under their employ, and some certain companies need to look for these compression wizards.
Oh yeah. I mean, compared to some of the other games where you're essentially forced to get a micro SD card before you can even play the game, even though you're inserting a physical cartridge, right?
Hell, maybe not even a micro SD, just a full-on, external 1 terabyte hard drive. I'm looking at you, Red Dead Redemption 2, and your 100 gigabyte download game.
Well, maybe, some of these companies should go to Nintendo and work out some kind of a deal where they share their secrets here.
Exactly.
Alright, so one last thing I want to talk about on Smash, and then I'll leave the floor open to you. Just on the online mode, I know you haven't had a chance to really delve into it a lot, but first impressions, I know you mentioned there was some people complaining of lag. Any real difference between this game and, let's say, Smash 4?
Yeah. the entire build of online is different between Smash Ultimate and Smash 4. Because for Smash Ultimate, you have the... You don't have the same for fun and for glory that Smash 4 had. Instead, you have like a little quick play option where you can just go get into an online fight quick. You have your search, you have like your rule set function where you queue up for a certain type of rules and it'll try to put you into something similar. But apparently that's not working to a T. Some people will be out there looking for 1v1s and end up in a 4-player free-for-all match.
Okay then.
So I feel like Smash's online needs to be a bit more fine-tuned before people can say it's the best of the best. But once it is fine-tuned and, you know, things get a lot more smoother, I feel like Smash Ultimate will have the best experience out of all the Smash games.
And you did mention there were some changes with the connectivity as well, right? In terms of matching you up with people that are closer to your region.
Yeah, the game will try to match you up with people that are closer to you, as well as try to match you up with people who have the similar rule set that you have. So if you want a 1v1 and you live in Florida, then another person who lives in, like, say, Georgia could have a 1v1 set up as their rules, you know, exact same thing, and they are more likely to get paired up with each other than someone who, say, is in New York or California with a 1v1 rule set.
Makes sense. Alright, so overall, one question that I know a lot of people have been asking: in order to play Smash Online, obviously you need a Nintendo Online subscription. Is it worth it specifically for Smash?
I haven't used the online feature, but if I'll say this, every Nintendo account has a free trial, and I feel like if you're going to pick up Smash, you need to use that free trial to try it out for yourself. That should be something that you decide on your own. I was just lucky enough that my friend allowed me to be in his little family plan thing, so I already have online without having to use that free trial. But if you plan on going hardcore into Smash Ultimate, like online, then yeah, you should definitely get it. But I'll keep your eye out for any news regarding stability with the online.
Alright, sounds like a plan. Okay, so anything else you want to touch upon before we move to our next topic?
Apparently Pichu is top tier. Sakurai has done something to the little Pichu to make it really, really strong, and I don't know what it was yet, because I haven't played Pichu yet.
Okay. Well, it seems kind of, odd that, Pokémon would be one of the most used characters in competitive Smash, but oh well.
Yeah, it's interesting, alright. I'm personally a big fan of Mewtwo instead of Pichu, but that's just me.
Alright then. Okay, so moving on to our next topic, let's get into a game that definitely is not worth $60.
You're gonna make me say it?
Yes.
Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Alright, so for this game, that has literally divided the Pokemon fan base in half. It's been out for almost a month now, and people have been getting into, I guess, a little bit more of the technicalities of this game, and I thought, since both of us have now had a chance to play through a lot of it, that we would talk about what we like, what we don't like, and sort of leading up into what we would like to see next year when the actual core Pokemon game comes out. So why don't you start off with what you do like about this game?
I'm gonna preface this by saying that I ended up liking the game a little bit more than I was expecting to. I went in, I knew how the game was. I saw somebody play through the game all the way through before I even picked up my copy, because I got it as a gift for Christmas. And so I wasn't expecting to like it. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. I ended up liking it a little bit more. The game itself has a certain cuteness and charm to it that made me want to play it again and again, like do these battles, catch these Pokemon, just to make the Eevee happy. Like, I was constantly going back and checking on this Eevee just to make sure the little dude was happy. And then seeing all the wild Pokemon in the actual overworld was such a surreal feeling. Even I knew about it, but feeling it and seeing it for yourself in front of your own eyes on your own TV, it's such a strange and cool experience. And then, being able to see really rare wild Pokemon like Charizards and Dragonites just out in the wild, and you can catch them. That's awesome. Who doesn't want to ride on the back of a Dragonite and catch a wild Charizard? That's just so cool to me. The trainer battles themselves are pretty enjoyable. Some of them, it's pretty easy to just skip around them. Others, you're kind of forced into them, but the battles themselves were alright. It was a regular Pokemon battle, but it's the one thing they kept, and it was really good. The style of the game, how it looked graphically, it still felt like it was an upscaled version of Generation 6's engine. It was still, it fit the game. And it did look nice to me, and the movie cutscenes were really, really nice. And the other thing I liked was how the gym leaders, a couple of the gym leaders and like an Elite Four member had appeared outside of their respective areas throughout the story. And, the game had like cameos of different characters appearing throughout the story. And that was really nice. That was a really cool way to actually tie in gym leaders to the game.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that. I guess I'll go over some of my likes then. So, first, 100% I agree with you. Seeing the wild Pokemon running around in the overworld, I think it adds a sense of realism, as opposed to just, running in the grass and then you get like a black screen and there's nothing there and it just transitions that way. So I really enjoyed that. I hope that's something that they keep going forward. The music is great. A lot of the remixed themes from the original Red, Blue, and Yellow were in this game. I really liked having the gems back. I know, again, it's based off of Yellow, but it's something you don't really realize until you haven't been in Pokemon gyms, like in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And it was a nice touch to be able to go back to the more traditional format. When it came to the trainer battles, I think that's one of the key aspects of this game that they had to keep the same in order to get people to buy it. For those of you who haven't played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it's essentially the same turn-based format, except more of a simplified format, like no hold items, no abilities, Z crystals, So really, it's just like it was in the older days, with the exception of Mega Evolution, though, that's still in this game. And one other thing that I do like about it as well, some of the mechanics that they've introduced in this game, I think, at first I wasn't sure about them, but now I think they're good to keep going forward, just in terms of convenience. Some of the things I want to touch on, in terms of competitive battling, there's actually a lady in the Pokémon Center in Celadon City, where you can pay her $10,000, and for the rest of the entire day, every wild Pokémon you encounter will have whichever nature you choose. So you don't have to actually go through, having a Ralts or an Abra in your party and having like a 50% chance of synchronizing the nature. So I really like that. I also like the concept of the catching combos, where like if you get, over 31 of the same Pokemon in a row, it increases your shiny chance. Other things too, being able to change your Pokemon's nickname without having to go to the name raider, having a PC box in your bag where you can just swap your Pokemon in and out without having to go to a Pokemon Center, things like that I really liked. So, I mean, there are some elements in Let's Go that I do want to see carried over into next year's game. But there are a lot of things I don't like about this series. So, do you want to start off on the dislikes?
Yeah, sure. I do want to say, though, that, two things, real quick. The lady in Celadon she costs 10,000 Pokédollars every time you use her. So, it's not a cheap thing to do. And, I remember you were not happy about having the PC box in your bag. You were not happy about that. And now, I kind of agree with you on that. I think that was a really nice touch. And I do like that you can put the Pokemon in there and their HP doesn't get healed. That was a good thing to do since you had that PC box in your bag.
Yeah, that I changed my mind on, because at first, you're right, I didn't like the concept of it at all. But now, after having played through the game, it feels a lot easier when I just need to swap out a Pokemon, or let's say I want to train a different one, I can just, do it straight from the menu in my bag instead of having to, fly to a Pokemon Center, go inside, open up the PC, so... Yeah, I've definitely changed my mind on that for sure.
And you did say another thing that I really like that I didn't mention. The naming in the party. That is such a good change, and I love that. Because when I played through, I had a certain type of, I had a certain way of naming my team. And it was every time I had a permanent party on my team, or a permanent member of my team get to its final evolution, I gave it a nickname. So for Eevee, it started out with the nickname of Tico. And then I caught a Bulbasaur, who I evolved into Venusaur, whose name ended up being, shoot, I can't even remember right now. I cannot remember what his name was. I had a Pikachu, that I ended up evolving into Raichu, and I nicknamed him Kaminari. And I had a Nidoqueen. This is the first time I ever used a Nidoqueen. And, I named her Gaia. And it was such a cool thing to have. But, on to the dislikes. The ghost-style catching mechanic felt awkward sometimes and exploitable at others. But if you didn't have the Pokeball controller, sometimes the Joy-Con felt really off and strange. Like, it felt like the gyro in the Joy-Con, or the motion control in the Joy-Con wasn't always exact, And that could just be because of how I sat, how my hand is over the Joy-Con, and where my Switch was set up. That could have been it, but it still felt really awkward when I would try to throw a Pokeball to the right and the Pokeball fly to the left. That was the thing that happened a couple of times more than it should. And especially when you were trying to catch like a flying Pokemon and you couldn't just straight up throw the ball to the center of the screen. You have to throw it to the left or the right. And the EXP mechanic made leveling up a chore because the battles don't net you a lot of EXP. You get a very small amount compared to catching over and over and over again, and it just felt like the leveling mechanic was just a big chore, especially since they didn't include, to my knowledge, they didn't include the Lucky Egg item from Pokemon Go, where for like 30 minutes, you get double the EXP. If they had that would have made leveling up so much easier, but because they didn't have that, it made everything feel so slow, and when you got to a certain gym that you needed to be a specific level for, it was just like, now I gotta go catch things, or I gotta go beat people up. In the handheld mode, there are massive frame drops in a lot of places. Viridian Forest is a terrible place to go through in handheld mode, and so is Koga's Gym. They are awful. And if you're flying on the back of like a Charizard or a Dragonite, the frames will dip there too. And the more Pokemon that are on screen, more of the frames drop in handheld, and it's just, God forbid you go into Go Park in handheld mode. But in docked, it's not as bad, but it's still noticeable in areas, namely Go Park. Go Park had a lot of frame drop issues. And I'll go back to something I said in the likes. I did enjoy the appearances of old trainers such as Mina and Archer, and how, some gym leaders and Elite Four members appeared throughout the story. I did enjoy that, but I felt like it was underwhelming, and it wasn't done in a way that could have been to its full extent. So, like, when your rival and Blue go into Sylph, Blue clearly has a connection with the gym leaders. He could have pulled a Generation 5 and had all the gym leaders show up to help out. And I get that that's not how it was done in the original games, but if they wanted to make something newer and include these characters throughout the story, they could have done it in a better way to make them more relevant and have it be cooler. But then again, that's just my bias for Generation 5 showing. And this feels obligatory, but the names of the Pikachu and Eevee tutor moves were ridiculous. I don't know who decided to name those moves that, but the day that I use a move called Batty Bad and have a serious face on is the day that I am officially dead inside. And certain moves are just downright overpowered, even on Eevee or Pikachu. Pikachu gets a move that has stab, crits, and always heals first, and that's downright ridiculous. And Eevee has it even worse, with pretty much Thunderbolt, but always paralyzes. Ice Beam, but it always drops the stats back to default. Then there's a version of Flamethrower, but physical, and it always burns. There's a version of Surf, but it heals you. And it's just, I can see why places like Smoggin, when they made their first tier list for the overused tier, like S, A, and all that, SAB, all that, I could see why Eevee was put in that S tier. Because my Eevee was just dropping Pokemon left and right. And it's just something that should not happen. That was absolutely ridiculous, and it does not need to leave the confines of Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you want me to go through my list? Because this is going to take a while.
Go ahead, my dude.
Alright, well, let's break this up into a couple different areas here. So, first, I hated the go catching mechanics, just like you did. I had the exact same problem. I want to say about 95% of the time I've been playing in docked, and when I used the Joy-Cons and I tried throwing the Pokeballs, they would just go left, right, all over the place. They would go too high, too low. Obviously, they didn't work that out when it came to the motion controls. I will say that when I got my Pokeball Plus, it did fix that problem. So, I don't know why you need to buy a $50 separate controller just to get the controls to work properly in docked, but clearly it was something they missed during the debugging process here. But more so than that, I just wasn't a huge fan of, throwing balls one after another. I think they need to go back to the way Pokemon has always been, which is you battle the Pokemon, you bring its HP down, then you throw your balls, you paralyze it, you put it to sleep. I do like the fact that the legendary battles still had you doing it the traditional way, but it just seemed so awkward and disconnected with the regular wild battles. I do not like it at all, and that's probably one of the reasons why I never really got into Pokemon Go to begin with.
If I may say something, I want to add on to that real quick. Using the second player option, even if you're playing alone, breaks the game so much. I have a couch in front of my TV. I had both Joy-Cons in both hands, and if I was fighting or if I was trying to capture a big Pokemon, I could just flick both Joy-Cons going inwards if it was at the center of the screen, and about 8 times out of 10, it was a guaranteed catch. It was ridiculous.
Well, you see, you're playing the game not how it's intended. I mean, remember how Masuda said you're supposed to be playing was a second person, not just 2 Joy-Cons with yourself?
Well, maybe they should have thought of a way to prevent that, but they didn't. Because you can only control the game with the Joy-Cons, or the ball, and it's dumb, and they shouldn't have done it.
I do want to say though, you didn't like the whole go catching mechanic, and I didn't like it either. Not in how it was executed in this, but the battling against the legendary Pokemon and certain Pokemon in the overworld, and then being able to catch it, that's something that I felt should be a thing in the regular games, where you battle it, you've beaten it, it's in a weakened state, then you can throw the Pokeball. I feel like that was really good. Contrast to how you felt about it.
Yeah, I can see that making a lot more sense. It's just, from my perspective, like, even legendary battles aside, just, like, forcing the motion controls, I think that's what turned me off here. Like, you should be able to do it, like, in handheld mode, where you just push the A button, throw the ball, and, you don't need to aim with, like, the gyroscope or anything, you just hit A and then throw the ball, and that's it. I'm just not a fan of, whether it's using the Joy-Cons or the gyroscope, having to move around. I think that can be avoided.
Well, you didn't really have to move around much in dock mode. It was just on how you swung the Joy-Con. But even then, you know, the motion controls weren't exactly one-to-one.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, so the next thing that I want to complain about is the EXP mechanic, and I know you already touched on this, but I do agree. It's weird because, on the one hand, initially my complaint with this game was the forced EXP share. The fact that you cannot turn it off, all of your Pokemon in your party are guaranteed to get EXP no matter what happens. But the way they implemented the EXP level up curve was exactly as you said. The fact that you actually get more EXP out of catching wild Pokemon, and it felt like they scaled down the EXP you get from trainer battles. So, like, in my playthrough of the game, I was only like a level or two above the opponents most of the time. But I always ended up finding that if I was a little underleveled, I would have to go on, like, a catching spree, even though I didn't want to. I'm sure there was a better way they could have done it, but I just did not like that at all. Next up on my list, again, I know it's not really a competitive game per se, but, just the fact they removed a lot of the competitive mechanics. I mean, I already mentioned the fact that, you know, you don't have the hold items, you don't have the abilities, but there has to be something to be said about oversimplifying the game to an extent. When you remove certain aspects, like even the breeding mechanics, when you say, oh, well, you know, no Pokemon eggs, you can't hatch anything. When they remove evolutions of Pokemon that are that we know occur in, like, Gen 2 or Gen 3 or whatnot. Like, one of the reasons I wanted to train an Onix, but I knew that I couldn't evolve it into Steelix because they restricted the game to the original 151, so, I just put my Onix in my box and that was it.
I had that same issue. I wanted to use an Onix too, and then it was like, oh, well, that's right, I can't use Steelix, so in the box you go!
Yeah, and it just confuses things further because there is Mega Evolution in this game. So that's what doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I can Mega Evolve my Venusaur or my Charizard, but then when it comes to Pokemon like Onix or Scyther or even like Rhydon, evolving it into Rhyperior, I can't do that, so...
I can explain the little bit about Mega Evolution and why you're able to do it in this game, but you're not able to evolve things like Steelix, or Onix into Steelix, Scyther into Scizor. I can explain that. And the reason why is because in the little 4-part Pokemon Origins thing we got a couple years ago, or was last year, one or the other, we had at the end Red receiving a keystone from Mr. Fuji, and he got the Charizard stone at the end of that. So it showed that the Mega Stones were in Kanto, and the Keystones were in Kanto. So it was more of a, we showed it in Origins, you might as well be able to do it here too. It doesn't make it any less good or bad. It's still bad. I still hate it. It's awful. And the way that they implemented it, I hate it. Because basically, once you have a Charizard, Blastoise, literally anything that Mega evolves in that game, once you have the Mega Stone for it, you can just go into battle with the thing in your party and then instantly Mega Evolve it. Without ever having to put it on your Pokemon. It's just there. And that's dumb. Then again, I feel like Megas need to be removed from the game entirely, but...
Yeah, some of the decisions with the mechanics, definitely questionable here. And again, like, I understand it from a point of simplifying the game, right? I mean, it's supposed to be introducing new players to Pokemon. They don't want to confuse everyone by, you know, attaching items, you know, dealing with abilities, but it just, again, dumb decisions. So that brings me to my next point, and this is a paragraph in and of itself. The game, to me, anyway, the Let's Go games feel lazy, they feel like they were rushed. And there are a couple of reasons why. So first off, we've already talked about how the controls are messed up. You know, just the fact that there's no Pro Controller support, there's connectivity issues with the Joy-Cons, motion controls not responding 100%. The other aspect of this, too, is, just like you mentioned, Roxy, the issue with the slowness and the lag. There should be no reason why there is any lag in this game. It's already been confirmed that the games are not pushing the Switch's hardware limitations by any means. I mean, whether or not they were upscaled from Gen 6, who knows? I mean, I'd believe it, just based off of what I've seen playing on it, but, I mean, it's not like we're maxing out the graphics card within the Switch, or, you know, really taking advantage of all of the Switch's built-in hardware, so why there's lag in Viridian Forest whenever you bring up a menu, there shouldn't be any lag.
Even just walking in Viridian Forest, there's lag. Like, if you go into an area and start getting a lot of Pokemon spawn, in Viridian Forest, it is just a lag fest. It's so bad.
There's no reason that it should be this way. Like, I can understand if you're making a Pokemon game in the style of Breath of the Wild. I mean, that's one thing, but the Switch is so much more powerful than the 3DS. Or even if you compare it to, let's say, the older systems, right? I mean, I don't see how this could have been an oversight. I mean, was the QA team on holiday? I mean, how could you not notice this before releasing the games?
There is a clear thing that you can see in when a game is made with love and passion, and it's something that the dev team wanted to work on and wanted to make great and phenomenal, and then there's games that you can tell where that wasn't the case, and the game designers were lazy, and they didn't want to put in as much effort, they didn't want to put in any kind of love into it. The former is Smash Ultimate. You can tell that the game is amazing. You can tell that Sakurai and his dev team put so much love and passion into Smash Ultimate. You can tell that. But for a game like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it's just not there. Like, there's no love in it. There's no caring, no passion in it at all. And that's what needs to change going into the Generation 8 games. It has to be something that Game Freak's Pokemon department is passionate about. They have to have something that they want to work on and they want to make.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see the difference. It's night and day. I mean, especially some of the other issues, too, right? Like in Let's Go, a lot of people have been noticing this. Another blatantly obvious problem with the game, there are text issues and glitches. I mentioned this to you a couple weeks ago, where whenever a computer trainer uses an item on their Pokemon, like, let's say a gym leader uses a super potion, the text will pop up on the screen saying, you, as in you, the player, used a full restore, and then you see the opponent Pokemon's HP get fully recovered, I mean, it's just, it's small things like that, and that's like a minor thing. You're just changing like one variable in the coding to change the word "you" to the actual name of, you know, Pokemon Trainer or Gym Leader X. But, I mean, just missing out on something that obvious. You know, other things too, like not really having any post-game content. Again, I know it's a remake based off of Yellow, and I know you have the Master Trainers, but the Master Trainers, to me, it's like a grind fest. I mean, it's not like having a whole separate area to explore, or like expanding, you know, some of the, you know, in-game story content and just going a little bit more in-depth after you become the champion and all that.
There is a little bit of post-game like that, though. There's not a lot. Like, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon had a good, fair amount of post-game. People can hate on Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon all they want. You cannot deny that there was a lot of post-game to it. And in Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, it was still there. It just, there wasn't a lot to it. Like, yeah, you got the Master Trainers, but there's Mewtwo. That would be your yellow post-game. But there's also, once you catch Mewtwo, you can go back into that cave and battle Leaf or Green. You can battle Green, and that's a little bit of like additional story. You can go and find Jesse and James in one of the routes and talk to them, and they'll battle you, and then they're like, wow, it's like they progressed as characters. There is, and then you of course can rematch the gym leaders, and that can be considered post game content as well. Like, you can actually battle Blue as a gym leader, and you'd still have 8 badges, but you'd be battling Blue as part of the post game content. It's not a lot, but it's still there, and it still could have been expanded on. They did show a bit more. There's a little bit of stuff dealing with Archer, but I'm not sure where. And then there's the stuff with Jesse and James, and that's pretty cool. But I get what you're saying, but it's still there. It's just not as much.
There could have been more. Like, I feel if they put the same amount of effort into the post-game as they did with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I could forgive them for it. But, I mean, this is supposed to be, like, aside from the fact that this is a $60 title, where, like, I really feel it should be $40 at most, I really feel like they could have taken the time to just, throw more into it. And instead, the feeling I get when I'm playing this game is, this goes back to maybe early 2017, maybe Nintendo went up to Game Freak or Pokemon Company International and they said, well, we need a first-party game to come out at the end of 2018 alongside Smash. None of our other developers are going to be ready, and we need something. Is there any way you can push something out? And this is what they came up with.
And like I said, it's still enjoyable. The game itself is enjoyable. I genuinely did like playing it. I enjoyed myself while I played the game, but that doesn't make it a good game.
Yeah. Well, a few other things that I should mention too, because I know you're going to agree with me on this. Having Mew locked behind a paywall.
God, I hate that. That's one of the only things keeping me from completing the Pokedex. Mew and Machamp. That's it.
Just a way to force people to buy the $50 Pokeball Plus accessory.
I refuse. I am not going to pay $50 for and excuse my language here, Scott, get ready to censor. I'm not going to pay $50 for a Mew.
Again, just cash grab. Written all over it. What else? I think you already mentioned this, just certain moves being overpowered, whether it's Pikachu and Eevee's attacks, or just, some of the other moves. There are 60 TMs in this game, I believe, and I've just collected a handful so far, but some of them I've noticed, they've really upped the power of them, and I don't know if that's just for this game specifically, because they've limited the move pool, just like they've limited it to the original 151 Pokemon, but when I see moves like Solar Beam having a base power of 200...
Ridiculous.
Especially if, well, I don't know if Sunny Day is in this game, but my god, you have a base 200 grass-type attack that hits with 100% accuracy, and you can use it every turn while Sunny Day is in effect. The gym requirements, I'm sort of split on, because on the one hand, I don't like it, especially, like, in terms of difficulty, you know, when you go up in Brock's gym, for instance, and they require you to have, like, a grass or water type on your team before you can even start, you know, battling the trainers and the gym leader there. Or, like, in some of the other gyms, I think Misty's gym had a level requirement. I don't think you were a fan of those either, right?
I wasn't. I'm still not a fan of it. I would like to clear up some stuff about that. I can't remember if I said it or you said it, or it was just like, it was a rumor that had gone around about it. But for certain requirements, like if you have to have a grass or water type Pokemon on your team, yeah, you have to show the guy a grass or water type. But after showing it, you can immediately take it out of your team.
Okay, that's good.
Like, you legit just have to have it. Show it to him, and it has to be on your team to show it to him. But then you can just pop it back into the party box. And the same thing goes with Eevee or Pikachu. You don't have to have that Eevee or Pikachu on your team. You can put it in the party box and have a full, like, 6-member team of something completely different. It's just that the Eevee will still ride on your hat, or the Pikachu will be on your shoulder.
Makes sense.
The level requirements are very weird. Very, very, very weird. Because I think Misty's was like, you gotta be level 15, and I think Sabrina's was like 45. But you only need one Pokemon that's the level requirement, and then you could drop it and use whatever else you want to. Like, it's just like a key to unlock the door, and then once you unlock the door and, like, it will leave back out, the door never gets locked again. It's just permanently unlocked. I will say, though, that because of the level requirement, even though I had to go and get a Pokemon up to level 45 in order to battle Sabrina. So what I ended up doing was I completely ditched Sabrina's gym and went to go fight Koga instead. And by that time, I had one Pokemon get up to level 45. And I was pretty much under-leveled for the rest of the game from that point onward. And I went, because the level requirement is really weird. It's like, oh, you have to have a Pokemon of at least 45. And then the gym trainers their Pokemon's levels are under that requirement. And Sabrina had some Pokemon that were under 45. It was weird. It was very weird.
Yeah, it seems a little bit off there. Now, one thing that I think they could expand upon, I like the idea of the co-op feature. Being able to get, like, a second player, you know, to join you on your adventure. But again, it seems like they rushed through it, because the second player, they don't have their own Pokemon. They have to use, what's on your team. They're not able to, like, interact in the world or pick up items. This is something I'm hoping that they fix, maybe down the road, but it's an idea that initially sounds good, but it has to be more than just, like, a ghost character, in a sense.
It's a good concept, but flawed in execution.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with you. I think that... Well, I agree with you in some aspects. Being forced to use... For the second player to use the first player's resources, that makes sense in a way, because all the second player is just a shell of you in a different gender. But I think that them using your resources is fine because you're both sharing the battle. You're sharing the experience. But I will agree, not being able to pick up items was really, really crappy. The second player should have been able to interact with the overworld if they were going to have to use your resources. It shouldn't just be this thing uses your resources and you can't use this thing to replenish them. You should have been able to send, like, I had Jester as my character's name, and every time I used the second player, I'd always call it Fool. I should have been able to let Fool walk to, like, this Pokeball on the ground and be able to pick it up to give me the Pokeball, the 2 Pokeballs that we just used back.
Yeah.
So I fully agree that them not being able to interact in the overworld was bad, but them being able... It was bad because you couldn't replenish your resources with them. If it weren't for the fact that they used your resources, I feel like that would have been fine. But since they used your resources, your Pokeballs, your potions, your Pokemon, they should have been able to interact with the world.
Yeah, I think that's something they really missed out on. And that's aside from the obvious change of difficulty as well, right? Like, if there is a second player, you would think that just, like, every battle should be like a normal double battle, not 2v1, it's like they didn't really flesh out the concept of it.
It felt good to flip the script from what we had in Ultra Sun or from Alola, where we would run into a battle that was a 1v1 and ended up becoming a 2v1. It felt good to flip the script, so to say, but at the same time, it did reduce the difficulty.
How did you even find, like, some of the affection mechanics that they threw into the battles, where, like, I was battling this one trainer who used guillotine on me, and my Ivysaur survived at 1 HP, and the text came up saying, Ivysaur is about to cry, but something like, it held on because it knew you wanted to continue the battle, or something like that.
That is something that did not originate in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That did not start in Let's Go. That actually started in Sun and Moon. I remember going through Sun, and I had an Arcanine that I had transferred from Pokemon Blue when it was a Growlithe, and I ended up using it, or I think it was, no, I ended up catching a Growlithe and evolved it into Arcanine. Whatever, I had an Arcanine.
Okay.
And there were moments where, because of how often I battled with it, it would say, Arcanine got a critical hit, wishing to be praised. Or Arcanine held on for you. Like, that's something that originated in earlier Gen 7 games, which I think is really cool. It shows that you, the player, have that connection with your Pokemon. I think that's cool. I'm perfectly fine with that.
I'm okay with that as long as they continue to leave that out of competitive online battles.
Yeah, that's a thing that doesn't exist in online battles, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I hope that still continues to not exist in online battles, because that would just throw a whole random element into things where, you know, it's possible, like, 2 or 3 turns in a row that your Pokemon just randomly stays alive or randomly heals from their status condition or something, and, you know, that seems like a lot of hacks going on.
I will say that despite some of the not fleshed out concepts that happen in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, they did flesh out that affection mechanic even more, because I'm pretty sure in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the status condition thing, where a Pokemon would just get rid of the status condition for just to make you happy, I'm pretty sure that didn't exist in the 3DS games. And when it said like Kaminari was about to cry, I was like, okay, well, it's low on HP. And I did see that, I saw that text in Sun and Moon, but I would heal the Pokemon and nothing would happen in the 3DS games. When I would heal a Pokemon in Let's Go, it would say something like, Pokemon was really gleeful or really happy that it got healed. And so they did manage to flesh out that one concept, despite not fleshing out everything else they introduced.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. Now, a couple other things I wanted to talk about too. So, some issues, and I get it, again, because this is more of a casual title. The fact that there's no cloud data save support for this game. The fact that the online functionality is minimal, like you don't have any GTS, ranked battles, multi-battles, anything like that. I would hope that, at the very least, next year's game has cloud support. I get the problem of people duplicating Pokemon and items and all that. I'm sure there's something that Nintendo or Game Freak could do to lessen the chance or to prevent that from happening. But there has to be some way to back up your data.
I fully agree. I think that for a game like Pokemon, yeah, there are things that can be easily exploited, but at the same time, you can make checks to make sure that doesn't happen.
And speaking of the lack of online checks,
who else would like to go into a battle and, you're going in, you throw out your little Eevee off your shoulder, and your opponent has a level 100 shiny Mega Mewtwo X already on the field. And then you get to see it evolve into a Mega Mewtwo Y. Who else? Raise your hand if you love seeing that in your online battles. Ridiculous.
Again, it speaks to the laziness and the rushed nature of this game. Now, if it's because Let's Go is set up using different servers and Game Freak doesn't want to take the time to incorporate some kind of check system because they're busy working on the 2019 titles and that's using a different server setup, I don't know. But it's things like that really throw me off from, having an enjoyable experience here. Don't get me wrong, I still like the game, it's just, there are so many problems with the Let's Go titles. And one other thing that I should mention, probably not a big deal to me personally, and I know it's not a big deal to you either, Roxie, but you do notice how this game has been, I want to say, directed towards the extremely young crowd, because there are some changes with, you know, the text compared to, like, the original Red, Blue, and Yellow, specifically to get away from, I want to say, potentially offending some people. I know some of these changes were done, like, with Gen 5 and Gen 6, too, but, you know, for example, like, the trainer character called the Gambler, his name was replaced by a gamer. Obviously the game corner is there, but as expected, you can't play, like, any of the slot machines. They removed all the slot references. So you can't even earn, like, any coins to exchange for TM prizes or Pokemon or anything like that.
Yeah, I wanted to go buy a Porygon, man.
Yeah.
I was so mad about that.
Yeah, can't do that. Few other things I've noticed so far. I know there are probably others too, but just from my own noticing, there's a guy standing outside the Celadon gym who's staring through the window, and I think in the original Red, Blue, Yellow, he said that he was doing it because there were a lot of beautiful women in the gym. In Let's Go, they replaced that text line to say something like, there are a lot of great trainers in this gym. And I think also in Lavender Town, there were some text dialogues talking about how Team Rocket actually killed Cubone's mother in the original games, and they sort of replaced that with Team Rocket just captured Cubone's mother.
I remember Lavender Town for Let's Go, and I'm pretty sure they still talked about Team Rocket killing the Marowak.
There are some references where they do still say, like, you know, my Pokemon has died and all that.
I'm talking about Team Rocket and the Marowak specifically.
I know there was at least one girl in Lavender Town where they did change it, though. So
it might have been that one line, but I know that, like, a bunch of the Lavender Town stuff was like, oh, Team Rocket is so bad for, you know, taking the Marowak, and, you know, there was mentions of them killing the Marowak because they mentioned that they were trying to remove the face, the mask off that face, and that would kill the Marowak. I thought that was really out of place because I didn't ever remember seeing that line. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, some things like that they did put in, and there were other things they took out. So, again, just like a whole consistency issue. You know, I just don't understand it. But that's my essay of a list on what I didn't like about the game. Was there anything you want to add to it?
No, I think we got all the dislikes that I had for the game. And we got out all the likes. I think we went over it all.
Alright.
We can talk about what we want to see from Let's Go while going into Generation 8.
Yes!
And you can start with that.
Let's move into some more positive territory for a change. So... I don't want to be a negative Nelly here, because when it comes to Game Freak, it's always let's take one step forward and then we'll take 2 steps back. So I'm sure that next year's game will come out and there'll be something that I want them to keep in Let's Go that they just decided, oh, you know what, no one likes that, so let's take it out. But there are a couple things that I would love to see in next year's game. So first off, I think it's highly time that we finally get actual voiceovers in the game. Whether that's, you know, having the dubbed, like the Pokemon voices, I'm saying their actual names instead of, like, just a sound effect. Having the characters, the gym leaders actually talk, so I'm not just reading text on the screen all the time. And one feature that I would like to return, with the option of it being able to be turned off, is having a narrator for, like, Coliseum battles or, like, specific stadium battles. You know, whether that's like a Battle Frontier type facility, just something along those lines, because that was in the original Stadium series, and they got Roger Parsons to narrate in Battle Revolution, and then since then, we haven't had any voiceovers at all. What do you think on that?
Fully agree. Give me voice acting in Pokemon. Give it to me. I want it. I need it. Now.
I think it's about time, too, because the Pokemon Company, I'm sure it's a multi-billion-dollar company, and when we see voiceovers in practically every other first-party game, whether it's Zelda, Smash, Tennis Aces, Mario Kart, I mean, it's about time that they actually do it here.
Here's my thing. Here is my thing. Why do events for Pokemon Go get voice acting, but the actual games don't? Why? Why do I get to have like a little conversation about Pokemon Go with what's his name? What's his name? I forgot his name. People call him Daddy. I don't know why people are freaks. The professor in Pokemon Go. Why do I get clips of him voice acting Professor Oak from Kanto? I want it. I need it. I want more of it in my actual games. It's not there, and I need it. I want it. I want to hear Matt Mercer voice act a character in a Pokemon game. I want it.
TPCI, stop being cheap and actually pay people to voice over your games. I think that's what it comes down to.
Hire me. I will do 30 different voices for your game. I'll do it. I just want it there in my game.
I think it's also disappointing because, like, when you think of the Let's Go games, the fact that they're trying as best they can to emulate the actual anime series on television, and you see characters like Jesse and James, and you see the Pokemon running around and everywhere, and then you're still relegated to reading text bubbles, and it's like, come on, you couldn't get the actors from the TV series to voice even a few lines in the game?
Okay, I have a thing about this. I'm irritated about this. We have these characters. Why? I don't mind, the text bubbles. Even if we have voice acting, I'd still like the text bubbles that we get. I love that kind of stuff. But, why do we get Jesse and James, but not the talking Meowth? Why? I wanted to see the talking Meowth. Why did we only get just some random dinky Meowth?
Again, lack of consistency.
Also, another thing, I want to put this on the table because I forgot to mention this in the things I didn't like. If anyone out there thinks the that they're doing with Melton is okay, you're wrong, and you're wrong for thinking that way. Because the only way you can get a Melmetal is if you transfer it from Go to Let's Go. The only way you can get Melmetal is by having 400 Melton candies. How do you get Melton candies? You either do the really quest in Pokemon Go, or you get, or you transfer one Pokemon to Let's Go every week, just in order to have your Melton box activate, so you can catch like 10 Melton.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. Give me Pokemon that can evolve normally, and don't lock them behind Pokemon Go ever again. Let me get a Melmetal in the Gen 8 games without having to evolve it in Pokemon Go. You hear me, TCPI? You hear me, Game Freak? I'm actually mad about that.
Just give it out over Mystery Gift, like all the other legendary and mythical distributions they've been doing.
I'd be fine with that.
In fact, that's actually a good point. There is a Mystery Gift option in Let's Go, so...
It's so dumb. I forgot to mention that, the things I didn't like. And I don't want that. That's the thing I don't want to see in the Gen 8 games. These like that.
Or locking Mew behind another paywall.
I'll punch someone if they do that again.
Alright, so there were 3 other things that I wanted to see in next year's title. So first, I want some post-game content that is at least as much as Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, if not more. I know people have been yelling for years to bring back the Battle Frontier. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not because of the fact we don't know how much influence Masuda has had on next year's title. We know, I think it's the last time he's directing a mainline core title, but...
No, hold up. I thought that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were the last games that he had a major influence over, and that the Gen 8 games he wasn't touching.
I hope not. I mean, I don't know which one is the last one. We know for sure Gen 9 and onward, I mean... But, I hope he hasn't touched Gen 8, but if he has, I hope his influence has been very minimal, based off what he did with Let's Go. So that's my second thing here. Third thing, I think they can expand on the actual animations for battles. I still find it weird when you have, like, a Pokemon use Hydro Pump or Water Gun and the water comes out of a place that doesn't make sense. Like, not out of the Pokemon's mouth. So I
fully agree with that, because I remember a Scott Falco's video on Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. He mentioned that same thing, where they should have touched up on the animations. Because that's something that the Stadium games had. The Stadium games had specific animations for certain moves. Like if a Blastoise uses Hydro Pump, you know, it shot the things out of its cannons. But in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it doesn't do that. I fully agree with that.
And the other thing, too, again, just leaning towards the nature of these games being lazy and rushed and all that, you think of how much larger the Pokemon Company has gotten since those days in the early 2000s, and we're still dealing with the original 151 Pokemon. Like, if you're creating a game that goes back to the original 151, and you used to have custom move animations in Stadium, and that game came out 18 plus years ago, the fact that they couldn't do it for this game... But anyways, that's something they need to fix, definitely in 2019. They have the budget, they have the experience, get that fixed. Same thing, like, with moves that make physical contact, like in Battle Revolution, you know, it came out in 2007, a Pokemon used, you know, Tackle or, you know, Takedown or something, and you could see them actually run up to the opposing Pokemon and hit them, as opposed to, you know, just like this Pokemon used Double Kick and then a picture of a foot appears. You know, so that's something they definitely can do.
When the games were sprite-based, that was acceptable. When they switched from 2D sprites to 3D models, this should have been something that they did, and did not do, except for the specific games.
Yeah. And just, like, there's so much more they can do on the battlefield itself to make it more realistic. I mean, you can imagine, like, how long it took for them whenever you used a weather effect, like rain or sunny day. Originally, you would get, like, the sunlight appearing, you know, once at the end of the turn, and that was it, and then they fixed that, and now, you know, if sunny day's in effect, you see the sun shining down throughout the entire battle. Or whether it's, like, moves like Stealth Rock, you know, making sure that you can still see, you know, the spikes or the Stealth Rocks on the field throughout, you know, however long they last. There's so much more they can do, and if you're going to charge $60 and have, like, a home console hybrid handheld experience, they should do that. And other than that, just one other thing that I want out of next year's game. It has to be mandatory there has to be Pro Controller support, and there has to be cloud save backup. I'm done. I'm gonna pass it off to you.
I'm actually shocked that none of our things coincided. So, what I want to see that is in Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu in the Gen 8 games. First of all, I like the Pokemon in the overworld mechanic. Some people may not like it. Some people want to go back to the RNG stuff. Personally, I like the overworld mechanic. Just make sure that it's not filled up with a bunch of samey, boring Pokemon. I don't want to go into like 5 routes and see nothing but Rattatas and Pidgeys. But bring back Pokemon in the overworld that you can walk into in battle. I like that. But actually battle. Turn-based. The second thing is to have the gym leaders and the Elite Four members have an actual impact and show up beyond their respective areas. I mentioned this before. I will never not mention this as long as it doesn't happen. When it does happen, I will concede. But until it happens, I will not. I will fight for this. I want my gym leaders and my Elite Four members to have an impact on the damn story. I like games with story. I like my Pokemon games to have a good story. I want the Pokemon following you. I loved that. I loved being able to, like, pull out my little Raichu and have him follow me. That was really cool. I love being able to ride on the back of an Arcanine. That was so cool. And I love being able to fly through the routes on the back of a Dragonite. That is awesome. I want that to stay in the games. And the last thing that I want that, you know, Scott didn't already say is, I want a bit of the cuteness and charm from Let's Go Eevee in the new games. Like, I can't say the same thing about Pikachu, because, like, I'm not a big a fan of Pikachu as I am of Eevee. I think Eevee is just goddamn adorable. And there was like a little bit of charm that Eevee had that I want to see in the other games, because it's so cute and it makes you feel connected with the Pokemon. Like, sometimes I'll look down at the screen and see, oh, hey, Eevee wants something. I'll shake the Joy-Con, and then Eevee's like, is a little mad and is wanting attention. It's an attention-seeking little and it's adorable. I want to see that a little bit more in the other games, because it's cute. Yeah, that's my stuff.
Yeah, I hope that we see this. Again, I mean, Ishihara has been continuously saying over the past year that 2019 is the core title, and that he thinks a lot of fans are gonna really love what they've come up with. I just want to end off with my predictions, because I have a feeling I know where this is gonna go, unfortunately. I think the 2019 title, as much as I want to keep the Pokemon roaming around in the overworld, the wild Pokemon, just like you mentioned there, Roxy, I have a feeling they're going to take that out. I have a feeling that they're not going to include voiceovers. I have a feeling that they're not going to fix the animations, because they're going to figure, oh, well, we've got now over 900 Pokemon once Gen 8 is released. And they're probably going to take the approach of, well, you know, to do custom animations, yeah, it's a lot of work, and we don't really want to do that, so they're probably not going to do that. And I have this sinking feeling that they're not going to have the cloud save data. Because they're probably going to say, oh, well, you know, we need to make sure people aren't hacking the Pokemon, and...
Because it's Nintendo.
Yeah, and because, you know, people haven't already hacked Let's Go, right? So, they'll probably come up with some sort of excuse as to why they can't support the save data backup. That's my thoughts. As far as the story, I can see them possibly tying in the gym leaders, like you mentioned. I can see maybe a lot more post-game content for sure, but like I said, with Game Freak and TPCI, it's almost always one step forward, two steps back, and especially with the 2019 title, I have this feeling that, especially with the overworld Pokemon, I feel like Masuda did it as a one-off for Let's Go. 2019 title was in development before that. They didn't know if that would be well received, so they just didn't bother including that at all.
I hope that the Gen 8 games are going to be in a similar fashion to how Generation 5 was done, with Black and White, and how what we get is a brand new Pokedex where we don't know what type things are going to be. They have to learn what things are, and I hope that's what happens. I doubt it, but that's what I want, because it'll make for a way better experience. And I feel like if they really, really wanted to bring in new players into the scene, that's how they should do it, instead of Let's Go. And I guess now is as good a time as any. I have to eat my words. I said Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was not going to sell well, and it was going to be one of the least selling Pokemon games. I was wrong. I will eat my words and concede that point.
Yeah, I was sort of on the fence with that, because on the one hand, it is a Pokemon title, so I knew there were going to be a lot of people, especially in Japan, buying it. I did not think that they would be selling, like, 3 million copies within the first week or two.
They sold phenomenally well. I was incredibly shocked, and I eat my words, I was wrong.
I hope, though, that they don't look at this and say, oh, well, because it sold extremely well, that means everyone loves everything in these games, and let's make sure that going forward we make all new games like this. So, we'll see how that plays out. I did want to mention one other thing that I actually forgot to talk about. Just something, again, that I found odd was the Let's Go games, and again, was the whole consistency issue here. Remember how in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, once you had battled a Pokemon once, on the battle screen it would tell you, like, which moves were, you know, super effective or not effective?
I'm full on for that coming back, by the way. I as a veteran Pokemon player, and a ex-competitive Pokemon player, I actually genuinely liked that feature.
I want to say, it surprised me when that feature was not included in Let's Go, because here you have a set of games that is specifically geared towards the casual audience to help casual newcomers get into the series, and that feature was perfect to get people into not having to memorize the type chart and just, you know, to get into, you know, which types are effective against which other types, and yet they didn't include it.
Yeah, I was really shocked about that. It felt really weird to not have that. After a good few years of having that, it felt really weird to not have it, you know?
Again, like I said, just this whole thing where there's no consistency. They introduce some mechanics that are good. Next generation, next set of games, they take those mechanics out. So, I don't want to set the bar extremely low for next year, and I really don't want to be negative, because I want Generation 8 to be the best games possible. I want them to have voiceovers. I want them to fix the animations, for crying out loud. It's just, the track record so far has not been great. So, just, I would say, temper your expectations on the new games next year. Hopefully we'll get some more information. We will be out among the first to discuss this when TPCI announces more details in March or April or whatnot. But yeah, let's just hope for the best here and hope that they don't screw this up.
In the meantime, if you want a genuinely fun game to play that actually has good things and is a good game, and you can enjoy it beyond just saying, haha, this game's so bad that it's funny, go pick up Smash Ultimate!
Yes, and support Sakurai.
That man doesn't even work for Nintendo. That man is a solo dev. He doesn't work for Nintendo.
He needs to take off at least half a year for vacation now.
Support this man. Make it so this man can finally rest.
Alright, so I'm going to end off this episode of GameView by giving my score on Let's Go Pikachu, because that's the game I picked up. And after everything that I went through, all the good, all the bad, all the terrible and ugly, I want to give Let's Go Pikachu a 5 out of 10. Because it is enjoyable, it's a very likable, cute game, but at the same time, it's, again, it feels rushed. It feels like Masuda did not care one bit when he made these games, and it just makes me more hopeful towards next year's game.
Here is mine for Let's Go Eevee, because that's what I picked, because Eevee is superior to Pikachu in every single way, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. For all the good, all the frustrating, all the annoying, I'm a bit more lenient. I'm giving it like a 6.5. Not quite 7. It's still mediocre status, but I did genuinely enjoy the game, and it's wild coming from me, because I also genuinely enjoy Sonic 06, despite it being a terrible game. So,
yeah, I would say my best advice, I mean, obviously, as reviewers, I mean, we're paying full price. Like, I don't think anyone would come up to me and say, hey, Scott, you paid $60 for this game, you paid another $50 for the Pokeball Plus, you're insane. Well, obviously, you know, we need to review these things, but I would say if you haven't already picked up these games or received them as gifts, I would wait until the price has come down to at least, you know, maybe $30, $40, because I feel that's what this game is worth. It should be priced like a 3DS Pokemon title, not a full $60 Switch title.
Yeah. Yep.
Alright, so with that being said, that's all the time we have for you guys tonight. A bit of an extended look into Smash Ultimate and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And that actually wraps up this year for GameView. So we will be back next month in January with all new episodes as usual, and a lot more stuff coming your way. And until then, I want to wish all of you guys a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy holidays to everyone who either doesn't celebrate Christmas in the New Year, or does, or celebrates Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, or the hell if I know. Celebrate whatever you want. Happy holidays!
Remember, you can get the latest announcements and updates on your favorite TOONDISE programs by visiting the all-new TOONDISE.com. Also follow us on Twitter @TOONDISE, #GameView. And if you enjoy what we're doing, you can show your support on patreon.com/TOONDISE, and also by hitting that like button. Until next time, I'm Scott.
And I'm Roxy.
We'll see you later.